Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365, our very first Football Friday without Eagles football until August, folks. Good to have everybody in here. Appreciate all you guys for watching today. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way in. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend?
Recovering from all the word salad I had to stuff down my gullet yesterday. Season-ending press conference. Disappointing, how we called it, that they were there. Yeah, I don't think you got a lot of answers. Part of it's understandable. You don't want to give away. Obviously, when it comes to personnel and those types of things, you never want to give away your plans. I do think, the history of this team is they'll be pretty aggressive when things go poorly. And I still believe that. So obviously Howie isn't going to tip his cards, tip his hand from that standpoint. And then, Nick Sirianni and autonomy and the coaching staff and all that, that was the main crux of what was going on yesterday. And basically, we're going to have to see what it looks like.
Right.
But, I'm in the camp of the head coach. It's got to be the head coach. So I don't,
I completely agree with you, John. I know everybody wants to just, Nick, don't touch the offense. Well, then fire him. There's
exactly.
no reason to keep him.
It's insanity.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But I don't think it's true either. That last time that was the same thing was reported wasn't true. So
wait, what wasn't true?
Kellen Moore had complete autonomy. It just wasn't true. So the same thing was reported when Kellen was hired. And, what'll give it away is the coaching staff right away. Now, as I mentioned last time, Kellen was given 2 guys. That's it.
Right. And you believe that's the better setup, though, right? Nick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The other setup's insanity. So, it's. And again, if you don't have confidence in a head coach, then move on from the head coach. That's fine. But what you can't do is say, hey, head coach, sit over there in the corner. You think the players don't know that? It creates so many layers of just things that can go wrong. And the Eagles wouldn't do that. They're not that dumb. They wouldn't do that. So number one, and we'll see. That's not to say, look, the plan is to hire an offensive coordinator and to let them run the offense. Now, 2 things can be true at the same point. And if everything goes well and that guy performs and you don't have to step in as the head coach, great. But my only point is you have to have the ability to step in.
And you think that will remain, though, right? To be clear, you don't think it's not going to be that way, or you still don't know and you're waiting to kind of see?
No, I'm pretty positive it's going to be that way. And yeah, the Eagles wouldn't do that. They're not that dumb.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not concerned about it, but it is a talking point. It is a narrative. So I feel the need to point out that it was bullshit the first time. It's probably bullshit the second time. And now the
question will become, John, not whether somebody will be able to at least run their own offense. It will be whether that offense works and whether they end up reverting to what Nick Sirianni has done so successfully here in Philly.
Correct.
Right.
And look, and again, Kellen was on board with scaling things back because things weren't working.
Right.
And that's a good trait to have as a head coach, to be able to adjust as a coordinator or a head coach, is the ability to adjust and shift things to best signal. And that's usually what happens, when you struggle. You don't expand, you contract when you struggle.
Right.
You hear it more on the
Simplify.
defense.
Go back to
Exactly.
what you do well. Right.
You hear it more on the defensive side of the ball. You even hear it in short weeks. What do? You contract. You go to your DNA setting if you're playing on Thursday night.
Yeah, John, that applies to all of life. I think everybody can resonate. That applies to all of life. You're off track. Simplify. Get back on track. Back to the basics.
Well, I think it is common sense, but as we always, common sense isn't always.
That's very true.
And the idea is usually the opposite. Like, think about what happened this year. Well, it's too simple. It's too simple. You got to be more complicated. You got to be more like it's not common sense. It is common sense, but people don't realize.
Right.
So from that standpoint, now what's interesting is the Michael Clay news came out yesterday. His contract is expiring next month. And the Eagles gave him permission to talk to Tampa Bay about their special teams coordinator job. So look, I mean, that's a clear indication he's not going to be back. So there's going to be more wide-ranging coaching changes on this team, and that's going to be interesting from the standpoint. This is the way the NFL does business, and I don't agree with it. But it's this weird dichotomy of how they've been here, need different voices, and I'm like, do you?
Right.
Everybody thinks new is better.
We're going to see. Johnny Mac, do me a favor. Check your mic. I don't know. During the middle of your answer, it just switched. I don't know if it went off or something. Just double check that for me. I want the people to hear you loud and clear this morning. We will do that. We'll talk about some of the comments that were made. John, I thought you had some interesting takeaways there. Just at the open, I always like to get your kind of initial thoughts. What sticks out to you? Yesterday I called it a little bit of a love fest. Howie's up there praising Nick. Nick is up there praising Howie. I'm like, all right, guys, we know you like each other. Okay. It's all good. I don't need to hear it over and over again. Let's just get this thing back on the tracks. They also talked to Nick. They asked Nick about, why they didn't move on from him earlier. Some of those questions were asked. I thought your question was a good one. He didn't really take the bait much on it, did he? But, I thought that.
Well, I think it's weird. By the way, how's it sound?
Yeah, it's good now.
I mean, it's weird to remove a guy from offensive coordinator and not fire him. So what's going on there? I think I find it very hard to believe that he'll be back, but maybe the idea is, if he doesn't get another job somewhere else, they could just stick him in the,
the proverbial
purgatory, proverbial groom. I can't imagine Kevin would want to do that, but it is interesting. It's not a typical way of doing business, so I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And while it was a non-answer, he did basically confirm, well, he's not fired.
Weird setup. I think that's because Nick Sirianni, obviously, and him are, that's his guy. So it is a weird setup, though. I mean,
it's a very weird setup.
Promoted.
I think they just want to get him the golden parachute, so to speak, and make sure he gets another job.
Yeah, right.
I think that's what.
Well, you would think that those in the organization. I mean, we talk about, John, the fan. There's a sector of the fan base that believes, Kevin Patullo, all the problems. That's not the truth. I don't think the Eagles organization believes that. So maybe they even know.
Oh, they know.
It's a little bit of a scapegoat, not a scapegoat. Well, scapegoat, whatever. That word's kind of used a lot, but I think they probably know.
Well, and he's not going to be the only scapegoat, and that's where I often give the Eagles credit for. Michael Clay is probably going to be a scapegoat. I often give the Eagles credit, and deservedly so, for being generally ahead of the curve, forward thinking. Generally, the old zig when everybody else is zagging. A lot of positive things about this organization. But when it comes to coaching, and I said it a couple of days ago, and I'll say it again, they're just ordinary, man. They're just in the groupthink mindset. They're like everybody else. They're not different than everybody else, but I think that's a bad thing. You just go along.
Yeah, right.
Got to be a scapegoat. Got to be a shelf life. And there's exceptions. I mean, obviously, Jeff Stoutland has lasted through a bunch of different head coaches. But when it comes to, some of the guys that you're going to see, I think you're going to see leaving in the upcoming days and weeks. There's something to getting up to a point where they've had the experience and they've succeeded to the point. Again, I feel the need to point out the best era in modern Eagles football. And you're trying to do it with different faces because why? Because it's time.
Well, that's why I wonder where, like, Nick Sirianni, obviously, as the head coach of the team, understands that they did fall short this year. He also understands, like, for example, I know Mike McDaniel is this great offensive mind. Let's just use him as the example. I saw a video floating around. My boy Gary sent it to me. Great video. You can tell he's obviously a smart, offensive-minded football guy. But if he's going to come in here and you're Nick Sirianni, this is what I would ask everybody. If you were as successful in your career as Nick Sirianni has been in his career, and then somebody's going to come in who tried to do what you do and wasn't as good as you are at it, and then you're going to let them take over what you do. If I'm Nick Sirianni, I'd be like, all right, I'll hear your opinions, but sit down and shut the fuck up. I've won 70% of my ball games as a head coach, Mike McDaniel. Might be great, but is that the end all be all? What's more important to winning football games? Having a potent offense or, understanding what the
and that's why
personnel.
That's why I bring up the ordinary branding. Like, I do think there's a reality, and while he's, and by the way, I think people should see now that he's in charge of the coaching staff. I don't know why people don't believe that, but he's in charge of the coaching staff. But for whatever reason, people still think it's Howie pulling the strings, and really Jeffrey from the standpoint of, guys need to go, that Jeffrey's the one steering that ship. But I do think he's very aware, and I've said it in the past, he's far more savvy politically, and he understands the landscape. So in many ways, you don't have to demand that he fires certain people because he knows it's coming. And then you have to weigh, and this is just part of life in the NFL. Well, do you want to stand? Do you want to be Doug Peterson and stand your ground and get fired? Or do you want to try to keep your successful position and, keep it going as long as possible? And he does have confidence in himself to think that he could get another group going in the right direction. But I've talked to this guy enough to know that if there was one thing, and I mean, the McVay stuff, for instance, McVay's never beaten him. And I'm convinced that he could beat him 10 more times in a row, and people would still say McVay's the better coach. And yeah, part of that is, well, the Eagles have had better personnel. Although this year they probably didn't. And it was a fluke too. Jordan Davis blocked field goal. But I mean, the success is what the success is. And I know, the thought that all these guys are great coaches and they can't beat the Eagles. I mean, we're at a base level. Does that not resonate with enough people? And he did sort of give away a few things. There's not much he gave away. He did give away a few things. And one of the things he said, there's a lot of ways to have success. There's not one way. Well, you got to be this. You got to be that.
Well, and the ironic part about that comment, John, is the one way that most people think is actually not as successful as people think.
Yeah, it's evident. Look, no. I mean, Mike McDaniel is everything you just said. And by the way, he was interviewed to be the Baltimore Ravens head coach. So, he's
probably a long shot, right?
I would think so. But, since everybody seems to have centered on him as the answer, or at least the majority of people that are talking with me and the commenters, that's the guy I would say they focus on. The guy's got about a 500 record as a head coach. A little bit, I think I got to look it up. 35 and 33 as a head coach, right around 500.
Right.
Never won a postseason game. Has been there twice, 0-2. So he is 500. He's 35 and 35 if you count the playoffs. He's got a ton of talent, offensive talent down there.
Well, the reason I don't like to use that fully against him is because maybe he's better suited as a coordinator. I listened to this interview, this segment somebody sent me. Gary, my boy Gary, sent me last night. I get the vibe, John, and obviously I don't know enough about Mike McDaniel. Perhaps we'll learn more about him if he ends up being the guy. I get the vibe, like you always say, you get him in a room, you're a lot more impressed with him than you think. And I think that's probably how Mike McDaniel is when it comes to offensive football. I mean, he definitely has a knack for it. He talked about building a scheme around any quarterback and making the skill sets of any quarterback's work. And, to me, he came off in just a 6-minute clip. I listened to him breaking things down as like the job of the head coach would be too big for him because he's so offensive focused, if that makes sense.
Well, that might be it, and you're not talking about the head coach. That's true. So
I mean, look at Vic. Look at Vic.
Yeah, Vic's a perfect example. Yeah. Maybe he's just a coordinator, but he doesn't have this long history as a coordinator either. He was a coordinator for 1 year in San Francisco under the best play designer there is. He spent the majority of his time as a run game coordinator. So I think part of it, and the 1 year he was an offensive coordinator, was not their best year. It wasn't terrible, but not their best year. I think they were 10-7. But there are, and then the aspect of, obviously, if you're under Kyle Shanahan, you're not running the offense. You're sort of if you have a defensive coach, same thing with the defensive coordinator. So when you're with Kyle Shanahan, you're not really in control of the offense. So there isn't this long history like Vic Fangio, and obviously he's a young guy. That's not fair. But there's this long demonstrated history with Vic Fangio, longtime coordinator. And yes, you can say, well, I mean, there's not really that with this guy. There's 1 year in San Francisco as a coordinator, and then he's a head coach. And there's a lot of good things in Miami offensively. But it ain't all peaches and cream either.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And I'm not a big Tua fan to begin with, so, I mean, I think he's limited from that standpoint.
Agreed.
But, I did see a frustrating propensity of that guy to he's a first read quarterback, which a lot of guys are now. But I mean, often he was sort of almost predetermined. This is where I'm throwing the football. So that's kind of troubling to me that they weren't able to evolve past that.
Right.
But it's always door number 3. Like, people think the next guy's going to be better, and history says. And again, you can go back. I'll only go back to when I got here. Every single offensive coordinator was disliked. Only after Kellen Moore took a lot of shit. People can pretend they didn't hear it. He took a lot of shit.
A ton of shit. Everybody remembers that if they.
Well, they won't admit
They
it.
act like they don't, but they do.
Yes.
I mean, he took a ton of shit.
Shane Steichen took a ton of shit, man. He was a bad press conference guy. He was taking a ton of shit. I was into shit. People can hide from it. That is bullshit revisionist history. This is a guy with Jonathan Gannon on the defensive side. Number 2 defense in the NFL, 70 sacks. Now, a lot of the hate for him came because of what happened, losing the Super Bowl and then leaving, and the perception that he wronged the Eagles. But he took a lot of shit. This guy, whoever the guy is going to be, I guarantee only one thing. He's going to take a lot of shit.
That's a guarantee. Welcome to Philadelphia, my friends. Welcome to Philadelphia. In a way, I kind of like it, but I do understand how at times it can be harsh or tough or unfair, however you want to slice it. All right, John, let's talk about the staff building in around the coordinator. Nick got asked about it. I do think it's a tough thing to answer at this point. You know, he gave you a classic Nick Sirianni, says a whole lot of nothing answer, but I understand why. I mean, you do have guys that are expiring contracts. You mentioned Michael Clay. I don't know if you know anybody on the offensive side right now that has an expiring contract. If you're going to bring in a good coordinator or a coordinator with cachet, maybe I should say, I think it would make sense for them to bring in some people, obviously. The question would be if they come in and they're like, hey, no Jeff Stoutland, that's where I think the line would be drawn. How do you see this staff filling out? And do you know of anybody, John, on the offensive staff that their contract is up and they're trying to, either re-sign here or pursue other opportunities?
No, coaching contracts are insane.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
There's no, like, for instance, yesterday, originally, so I was told Michael's contract expired, and it's expiring, but it hasn't expired. So there was a back and forth on, did the Eagles have to give him permission? And I'm thinking to myself, well, Flores is out there taking interviews for coordinator positions. His contract expired. So my presumption is once a team season is over, the coaching contracts that are set to expire. That is not the case. It might be the case in some cities, but it's not the case in other cities. So in the Eagles' essence, he's under contract until next month. And they had to give him permission, but they did give him permission. If they were thinking about extending him, they're not giving him permission to talk to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Exactly.
So I think that's a clear signal that they're looking to make a change there. I think some of the offense, and this is one of the shitty parts of whether they're under contract or expiring or not. And you'll see if they do expire. My presumption is they would expire around the same time as Michael does. You'll see guys interviewing, but you also keep guys in limbo, waiting for the offensive coordinator. Waiting. Do you want Aaron Moorhead? Do you want Jamal Singleton? Maybe they do. Do you want
Jason? The quarterbacks coach? That's another revolving door, John.
Scott Leffler
this year, Doug Nussmeier last year, Alex Tanney in 23. Then Brian Johnson obviously was the 2 years before that. Is that a changing position with the new coordinator?
Well,
Probably, right?
I think generally the two most important position as a coordinator are going to be quarterbacks coach and offensive line coach. Generally, not to dismiss the other positions, but those are generally the guys that are going to be demanded.
Right.
But again, for all the talk about it, it looks like they want experience because, again, they're very ordinary. So inexperience didn't work. So we got to go towards experience. Way everybody thinks. Their group think, go along to get along. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Charlie Weiss Jr. was a guy that Pat Leonard floated, a good friend of mine. 32-year-old guy, never coached in the NFL. Obviously no experience play calling in the NFL. Experience, high level experience. You saw what he did with Ole Miss this year. For 2 years in a row, the best offense in the SEC. Think about that. Best Ole Miss.
Different quarterbacks too.
Different quarterbacks. Got Jackson Dart to be a first-round pick.
Yep. Well, that's Lane Kiffin, John. I know it's Weiss too, but you chirp Lane Kiffin. Got to give him a little credit there, J Mac. Great.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm very. But first of all, Lane's very successful. Obviously, I have problems with Lane Kiffin that have nothing to do with football.
Yeah, right. Pretty easy. I got you.
But yeah, I mean, Lane is certainly the more impactful point. And by no stretch of that, do I think Charlie Weiss Jr. is getting this job. I don't even.
That would be a bad setup. Like if I'm Charlie Weiss Jr. and why would you take that job?
Well, just to get in the NFL. Just
I know, but look at Scott Leffler. He did it to just to get in the NFL too, and now he might be going back to Bowling Green because the Eagles are going to probably fire him after 1 year because the coordinator fell flat and the offense fell flat more so.
Well, that's like these guys are used to this. This is life and sort of coaching.
Yeah,
it's a very nomadic profession.
Yeah, it is tough biz.
Gunter Brewer was here for 1 year, longtime college guy, coached the receivers for 1 year, had to go back, because it didn't work. The offense had nothing to do with him. But that's just the life of it. And you see the resumes of this guy. I'm just looking up Gunter Brewer because he's a good dude. He was here for 1 year in 2018. Obviously the year after the Super Bowl. And you know what happened after the Super Bowl? Frank left, and all of a sudden the same old things. But check out this guy. Wake Forest, Ole Miss, East Tennessee State, Northeast Mississippi, Marshall, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, back to Ole Miss, back to North Carolina, Eagles, then back to college, Louisville, Maryland, Virginia Tech. Now he's back at Marshall.
Yeah.
That's the life of a coach, man.
Yeah.
It is a nomadic profession.
No doubt.
And then you get these mentalities of like, all right, you've had tremendous success here, but now it's time to move on from the offensive coaches. I don't know. Be careful what you wish for is all I'll say.
I agree. All right, John, let's move into a couple other comments that I thought were good that are worth talking about for sure. A.J. Brown, the topic at large. I don't think the answer was all that good. I understand the answer. They did ask about open to trading A.J. Brown. Howie basically went on to say, and A.J. Brown is the type of guy you look to add. You look for great players in the draft. You look for great players in free agency. You look for great players to trade for. Kind of insinuating trading A.J. Brown would not be the best move for the Philadelphia Eagles. What is your perspective right now on the A.J. Brown saga and maybe even an early J-Mac prediction on what you think the outcome could be with A.J. Brown in Philly this summer?
Yeah, well, I always used a 50-50 scale, and I shifted above 50% that he would leave, probably late November, early December. I'm still there. From Howie's perspective, understand there's two goals. He could say, no, are you crazy? I'm not going to trade him. He didn't say that. He always leaves it open-ended because he's good at his job. One of the things, you got to prop up his value as much as humanly possible if you're going to move him. So, yeah, obviously talk up the player. And not that you need to talk him up, but everybody knows what type of player he is. But it is problematic from a cap standpoint. I think in a best-case scenario, in a best-case world, that you'd have a conversation with the new coordinator. You'd get excited about coming back, and you'd repair things and move forward for at least one more year when it would be easier to move on. I think that's the best case scenario for the Eagles, but you have to leave it open-ended. Howie left it open-ended. And that's smart. But I would still lean more towards he's not going to be back than he is going to be back. And, Devin Caney, our old friend, not old, but he's back on social media. She just retweeting people, not doing anything. But the quote she retweeted from Dr. Julie Gerner, who you knew because of your brother.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her, but here's the quote she put: "Envy no one, for whatever you see, a price was paid." And then the Ryan Holiday, again, I don't know him, maybe some people do, put up a Marcus Aurelius quote: "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's the more problematic, because then it's like, well, who's the enemy? What's AJ talking about?
Or is it just a, some people like that stuff.
Some people it is just sometimes it is, but this guy has a history of putting cryptic shit up there.
Yeah, very true. And it's already starting. So maybe that tips the scale well above 50% here.
I mean, sometimes I see a quote. Yeah, I'll put it up and I say, well, that's good wisdom. But I don't have a long history of posting cryptic shit. So yeah, I'm still leaning towards over 50% he's not going to be back, but I do think you have to have the conversations. The same thing with Carson Wentz. I think a lot of people forget the Eagles' plan when they hired Nick Sirianni was to fix Carson Wentz, run it back one more year and see if you could fix it. And Carson just he was out. He didn't want to be a part of it. And you had to make a difficult decision. You had to eat, at the time, a lot of dead money. It seems quaint now.
It was the most in history.
Most in history at the time. And they moved on. If the player doesn't want to be here, it's best to move on. So you have to have the discussions. You have to try to convince them, look, we're going in a better direction. The passing offense is going to be better. The frustration is going to wane. Let's go win another one. A lot of talent, yada, yada, yada. But if he doesn't want to be here, and if he doesn't buy it, at some point you got to pull the plug, addition by subtraction.
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee everybody this. If the Eagles get rid of A.J. Brown, they will not be a better talented team on offense.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Bank. Yeah, take it to the bank.
Hell no. I love Ed Kratz. We had my buddy Ed Kratz on yesterday. He's talking maybe Darius Cooper has an elevated role. I mean, come on.
Well, I did think Ed had a good point about how maybe some of the early year, problems that AJ had that really weren't just this year. They were multi-year, maybe led to a lack of focus from AJ Brown or
that I agree with.
I don't think AJ dropped the ball because he's not good anymore or his hands aren't good anymore. I think he dropped the ball because maybe a lack of focus was at play. I thought that was a good point by Ed.
My only point is you ain't replacing him. You ain't getting a better player.
Oh, I 100% agree.
So, but sometimes we talked about it in coaching, even more so with players. Sometimes the shelf life is just over because they don't want to be here at a certain spot. I don't know if we're there or not. I think the Eagles will try to repair it. And if they don't, if they can't, and it becomes evident, they'll move on. And if I'm gauging that 50-50, I would say more likely they'll move on.
Yep, we'll find out. I would hope they would keep AJ, but I do understand the complexity to that problem. And AJ's an interesting guy. John, how about Jalen Hurts? They were asked a couple questions about Jalen Hurts yesterday, mostly from Jeff McLean. I thought he had two good pointed questions on Jalen Hurts and his impact on the offense and, kind of what his role was in the regression of the offense. I don't think you got a great answer, but your thoughts on what they had to say about Jalen Hurts and how he contributes to what the offense did last year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're not going to throw the quarterback under the bus. So I get people are frustrated or even from the Jalen haters who want them to throw him under the bus. That's just silly. And for the Jalen lovers, they're probably upset because they didn't claim that nothing is his fault. And Nick has said it pretty consistently. And by the way, when we talk about was Kevin Patullo a scapegoat? Well, he was a scapegoat for the mere reason that in the very press conference they're talking about firing, they again, at one point Nick said, I know everybody throws it on Kevin, but we all got our fingerprints on this. Well, all right. Now he's 100% right, but that makes Kevin a scapegoat by definition. Everybody's got their fingerprints on it, including the quarterback. I don't think that's a surprise. I mean, it was Jason Kelce. I always say 2 years. Jason Kelce went further, of all people. Said, the passing offense has been kind of crappy for 3 years. And he's right.
Yeah, but Jason Kelsey had this long answer about this, talking about all the problems with the Eagles, and he never once mentioned Jalen Hurts.
Well, I mean,
I get why. It's just
yeah.
You're not gonna throw him under.
I mean, yeah.
But
well, again, because the passing offense is crappy. I mean, you could have a different sentiment that it's not because of Jalen Hurts. You can have, but he also defended Kevin. So Jason's in a difficult tightrope.
Difficult role for
I only bring that up because I always say 2 years and he went to 3 years. That's the only reason I brought it up. And objectively, he's correct. They have struggled for 3 years in the passing game. So, I mean, if you struggle for 3 years in the passing game with 3 different coordinators, now you'll have the diehards that will say, well, that's part of the problem. Well, guess what? Continuity ain't coming. So this is what you have. And, Jalen, to his credit, said he's not going to use that as an excuse. They haven't had a good passing offense. So, maybe this is Jeffrey Lurie's weird way of his Chip Kelly experiment with personnel. Let's give him the rope to hang himself, which I think is stupid.
Well, what's the alternative?
Well, the alternative is keep winning at the highest level in franchise history. That's the alternative.
Don't change a thing.
Well, I
don't you think
it's not don't change. You try to evolve, and they have evolved. And there's
just little don't blow up what's worked so well because
exactly. Yeah. Just keep trying to get incrementally better for as long as the shelf life is available.
Well, do you think the shelf life is maybe done?
I don't think so either. Because I look at the 8 teams playing this weekend, and I'm like, I could see them being back next year and beating any of these teams. So no, I don't think the shelf life is over, but I think the shelf life is going to get pushed back if you totally skew the offense towards a more to Shanahan-esque type approach. I think the whole thing's getting knocked back. Maybe you can take a step backward and take 2 steps forward a couple years down the road. But I do think you're taking a step back. There's going to be learning issues, learning curves, hiccups. So, and I don't know if that's Jeffrey's plan, but I do know that he's frustrated like everybody else that they can't pass the football consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. That's before this era of Eagles football. Once upon a time, if everybody remembers, Jeffrey Lurie, all the guy wanted was a high-flying passing attack. I mean, the guy dreamed of it. So
I think all the guy wanted was to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I know. I was just
and then you win, and then you win another. And then it becomes, again, just human nature that, all right, now I want to do it and enjoy it. Instead of, like, what are the like, that's the most positive thing about Nick Sirianni I could say is that he will do anything to win a football game. Literally, it's not lip service. He will do anything to win a football game. He is so competitive. I think he'd do anything to win anything. If you're shooting baskets with him, if you're playing horse.
Well, he said Jalen has that too, but I don't know if that's bared out to be true.
But I think people say that's what they want, but that's not really what they want.
Yeah, right. They want it to look a certain way. Yeah. All right, John, the other questions that I thought were relevant, we'll get to them both real quick, wrap up this opening segment on this long thing. We're going to get to the resources basically in the offseason after losing a bunch of free agents. Last year was a maintenance offseason. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then Lane Johnson, they asked him about Lane Johnson. Obviously, you're not going to get much of an answer there. It's up to Lane Johnson. But any thought from you on whether you're tilting one way or another on Lane Johnson based on what you heard yesterday?
No, because I do think it's up to Lane, and Lane, I think, goes back and forth. Now, the one thing when he talked about, at times he's talked about wanting to play 2-3 more years. At times he's talked about, well, I do think if they were able to get things going this year and repeated, and he stayed healthy, he probably would retire. I got that feeling, but he missed the last 8 games of the season. I don't think he wants to go out that way. So again, just speculation. I think he's going to be back. But the one thing he has said is when he had the reconstructive surgery on his ankle, he tried to they had what's called a tightrope surgery, which is a short-term fix to try to play through. It didn't work, and he had to have a complete reconstruction for the deltoid ligament. That was really
tough injury for a right tackle, man.
Well, that was really difficult on him. And he said, if you have something like that, and this Liz Frank injuries are really difficult too. So that might change his thinking. So to Howie's point with that is, he's telling the truth. That's up to the player. And guys will walk away. We saw it this year. We still don't know why Zadarius Smith walked away. We still don't want. I haven't seen anything about why Jair Alexander walked away, other than speculation that he never got, and he didn't. He never got to where he was because of the knee surgery. That's up to the player, man. Now, I don't think Lane Johnson wants to go out that way. I think he's also wants to make sure he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think from his mindset, even though I think he's a no doubt about it,
he's going to the Hall of Fame, Lane. You don't got to worry about that.
Well, he does, because he doesn't have a ton of all pros and Pro Bowls, because his career was this weird sort of, he crossed over 2 eras where all the Pro Bowl stuff when he started was just left tackle, left tackle, left tackle, left. They just took left tackles. They didn't look at it like you got to pick a left tackle, you got to pick a right tackle. They just picked the best left tackles. So he didn't get a lot of the recognition. And I think people in Philadelphia know, and most people in the industry know, but a lot of the voters are just media people, and they look at those numbers and they say, well, why is this guy a no doubt about it Hall of Fame? So I think from his perspective, he doesn't look at it that way. So I think that helps as far as wanting him back. Yeah. So I would bet on him being at 50-50 again. I would bet more likely he's coming back. But it's up to him.
We'll see. John, I mentioned about the offseason now with the free agents and everything coming up. Last year, John, the Eagles dubbed it a maintenance offseason. On Birds 365, we dubbed it the Temu offseason. Ultimately ended up being the offense was the Temu group and the team. Well, what do you think this year's is going to be? They asked about the resources and everything. And how do you kind of see this offseason playing out? Aggressive?
Yeah, I think they're going to be very aggressive. It has nothing to do with anything more that they're aggressive once they lose. And, I mentioned this last offseason. And look, and they had a plan, and they clearly described the plan and why they had the plan. But they were also coming off a Super Bowl championship, and there is a human nature aspect to that of breathing a sigh of relief and say, we got another.
Exactly.
And now it's the exact opposite. You're going to see way more urgency. You're going to see way more of an impact. I think you're going to see a really exciting offseason from a fan perspective. They're going to make some moves. And some of them are going to be high profile. Some of them may be trades and manipulation. Howie loves this shit. I think they're going to be very aggressive.
It's Howie makes some moves that are super surprising.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. People are like, well, you signed this for you. It might be trades. He might trade people out.
I know I mentioned the name that nobody liked, which I won't even mention it because I don't know if it's going to be him. But I think there could be someone on the team that, maybe you don't think is going out and who could go out. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Well,
he did mention having to make sacrifices, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to pay people, you can't pay everybody $22 million. He's right.
No, you can't.
You can't have 22 starters making $22 million. So some guys, and that's where they've done a good job defensively, repopulating with young players. You got to continue hit. He did bring up his recent draft success, day 1 and day 2, which has been pretty significant. And they got to keep doing that. Now it's probably going to shift more to the offensive side because they're going to have to start playing paying the defensive players. So it's a constant evolution. But I do think they have to start repopulating on the offensive side with younger talent as guys start to age out.
Interesting stuff, Johnny Mac. All right, there's our opening segment on the press conference yesterday, the end of season press conference. Probably the last time we talked to those two guys for a good bit, I would imagine, John. I don't know what they have on the agenda. I know you got things coming up, but I don't think we'll talk to them for quite a bit, right? Maybe till after the draft.
It depends on, who signed high pro. Obviously, if there's high profile guys.
Yeah, or laying their tires maybe or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, you also have the combine. They'll, talk at the combine. They have to talk. Yeah, there'll be instances where guys. Now, typically over the past couple seasons, someday my voice will come back. They've been very late when they've changed coordinators. We haven't gotten the new coordinators till May, which is, basically on-field stuff, OTAs. Yeah. Hopefully they would give us the new offensive coordinator before then, but
I doubt it.
Another thing too, close circuit to the Eagles. Somebody's listening down there. Look, everybody in the damn league confirms interviews now. Confirm your interviews.
Yeah, that's my next topic. Where are we on this interview? I mean, they fired Patullo now a few days ago.
Confirm your interviews.
Are they having them, John?
People confirm. Now, all we've heard is the people that they've
done from Rossini and Jazina. That's all I've heard.
Yeah. And Charlie Weiss yesterday. Confirm your interviews. They won't do it, but
and they have
the Chargers.
Bob Lang's the head of the PR. He's the one who changed them into the freaking pseudo Gestapo.
No, they were doing that. They were doing that before Bob got here.
Were they to this level, not confirming interviews? I mean, we're talking about base level stuff.
They do not. They have never confirmed coaching interviews. And I've talked to him, but when they hired Nick, I asked that question, and that was before Bob got here. I asked that question. I said, why can't you guys confirm interviews? First of all, it's over. The interview's over. You stop the speculation. It's not harming anything. It just clears things up. I don't know. Every team in the NFL does. And now they're confirming coordinator jobs. Most teams interviews. Forget about head coach. Everybody. Mike McDaniel, the Baltimore Ravens have completed an interview. The Atlanta Falcons, everybody looking for a head coach.
Bro, this is a successful organization, but they're a weird organization. Everybody listening, your favorite football team is a little bit of a weird ass organization.
By the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's how we found out Michael Clay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers confirmed the fucking interview.
Special teams coach.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Let's move on. We got a couple super chats we'll get to, and then we will dive in a little bit to that OC search. Here's JD3. What's up, JD? He says, $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Is there a chance that Nick outlasts Jalen? Don't like the idea of firing a coach who won a ring while never coaching his style of quarterback. Also, it's unfair to move off of Hurts without seeing him in a new offense. Well, JD, sounds like you're asking for too many things to come true at once there, bro.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that the Eagles move on from Jalen before Nick. I also think there's a chance the opposite. I think they're both on the clock.
You think 26 is a hot seat season for both of them?
Yeah. I think both. That's the way the NFL works. Like I said, they're ordinary when it comes to coaching and coaching changes. They're forward thinking in a lot of ways, but not. They go along with their group think when it comes to coaching, and you have levels, and they are at the scapegoat phase. And when you're at the scapegoat phase, that means the head coach is generally next when it comes to coaching. Now, personnel, these are the difficult conversations I thought you needed to have last year, but you couldn't have. There's unintended consequences to everything. And winning the Super Bowl, nobody had this conversation. We never had this conversation on this show when I wanted to have that conversation. And how many times did I say people aren't ready to have that conversation?
Yeah, a lot, quite a bit. I feel like we have most conversations here. We're willing to talk.
Well, we did, but not as much as we should have. Like I often point out, if they lose in the divisional round, that's all we're talking about. Literally all we're talking about all off season. You would have to manipulate talking about it, manufacture talking about it, because nobody wanted to have that conversation. And now you have Jason Kelsey out there saying, hey, guess what? The passing game has stunk for 3 years. So, I mean, there's been plenty of people. There's been
a passing offense, this team. They have been for a while. He's right. Jason Kelsey's right.
Yeah, there have been plenty of people who've talked about it, but they generally get labeled as, oh, you hate this, you hate this guy, you hate this guy. No, it objectively hasn't been great. So, yeah, I think, and this is in a lot of ways, and I can't prove this, in a lot of ways, I think this is the personnel version of what I said of Jeffrey Lurie's mentality with Chip Kelly at the end, which is, I'm going to give this asshole all the power to hang himself. Now, that's not how he described it. I'm sure he was hoping Chip succeeded, because you never want to be wrong. And I don't want to, I say asshole because he's kind of an asshole. Jalen's not an asshole. But I think in a lot of ways, it's the same thing. It's like, you know what? We're going to go hire somebody with a completely different offense and see if this guy can sink or swim. I think that might be the mindset here. And if he sinks, you got to move in a different direction.
Would it be both, though? I mean, to JD's question, well, you'd get to see Hurts in a different offense, but I doubt they're going to move Jalen and keep Nick.
I think it's possible because, he has had.
Did the Eagles organization have a better opinion of Nick Sirianni than the outside view is? Because I feel like the outside view is pretty unfair to Nick. I mean, I've consistently said that, but
yeah, well, I think you saw it. I think you see it by what happened yesterday. Like typically, and I heard somebody say, well, typically, there were a lot of questions for Nick because we all know he's in charge of the coaching staff. Like nobody believes that. I can't make them believe that.
Right.
He's fucking in charge of the coaching.
You're right. That was interesting. Normally when Howie's up there, everybody, kind of not disregards him, but you get to talk to Nick a lot more. Yesterday was a lot of Nick.
Yeah. Well, because yesterday was about the coaching staff primarily, because of what's going on. But yeah, I mean they think a lot higher of Nick than the outside world does, but that's not difficult. I mean, most of the outside world doesn't give him much credit for, they win despite him is generally the thought process of a lot of people.
Interesting stuff, Johnny Mac. All right, good opening segment. Appreciate everybody being here. JD3, thanks for the super chat. We got a couple more we're going to get to. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here. The start of the Eagles offseason. This one will be much different looking than last offseason, just from a perspective of we didn't end on top of the mountain. We didn't end with a parade on Broad Street, where I was talking to J-Mac live from Center City. All right, so none of that. We move now into the offseason with a team that fell flat on fell short of their expectations, ultimately fell flat to a San Francisco team that was pretty depleted. And now we
It's
move.
a bad loss, by the way.
I know you've been saying that.
You
said we were going to win the game. And John, I'm not going to give myself my own flowers, but I felt like that 49er team was better than people were giving them credit for.
That is a bad loss. Not because I picked him to it. That is a bad loss from a nutrition standpoint.
Yeah.
Jason said that too on his podcast. It's like,
yeah, it is.
You can't lose that game. Again, it's completely different. I'm with you 100%. I probably would have picked San Francisco. Warner's out there and Bosa's out there. And Mikael Williams is out there. And they were on their, third and fourth linebackers maybe instead of their fifth and sixth linebacker. Yeah. I mean, that was an atrocious loss.
So offense doesn't take advantage of defenses, John. It doesn't matter who's out there. Literally.
Well, I think you take advantage of both sides, but as I said, that was an uncharacteristic fourth quarter defensive performance.
I know you keep saying that. I mean, they did get 2 takeaways in the second half of the game. Offense couldn't do shit.
Well, all right, but if you want to talk about the 2 takeaways, which are fine, you also talk about the rare times where Quignon's getting burned and Cooper's getting burned. Yeah, so how is that not uncharacteristic?
No, it is, but
Quignon didn't get burned all damn season. It's hard for me
to look at that and say, "Oh, the defense failed them." I get it. I get what you're saying, but I mean, shit, the offense failed the team all year, and then in the biggest moment, they don't.
Yeah, but you're worried about saying offense, defense. I'm saying both. I'm saying it's a bad fucking loss.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I will agree with you that it was uncharacteristic some of the ways they got beat in the end of that game. All right, good stuff. Hit that like button, everybody. Let's get to a couple more chats here. This one's interesting. Brian Pumper, per usual. Okay, fellas, where's the OC interviews? Should be happening immediately after shit canning KP, unless they're having trouble generating interest with the eye emoji, J-Mac.
Yeah, they're not going to have trouble generating interest, but because there's only 32 of these jobs, and this is one where you get to call the plays and all that, they're going to get plenty of interest. That's not the problem. The frustrating part about them not reporting interviews, I just talked about it. It's insanity to me.
Report your damn interviews.
Because again, you have people using this speculation. I hope the Eagles are listening to this. This is what it fuels. This bullshit, like they can't generate interest in an offensive coordinator job. This is what this fuels. Other than hey, Atlanta, Tennessee, Chargers. This is who we're Tampa Bay with Michael. This is who we're interviewing. You shut that down. And then you just talk about the merits of the candidates. It's insanity to me. So they will have no problem getting people in for interviews. They will have no problem. But you're going to continue to have that kind of spin because of the way they do business.
Do you believe they've conducted an interview yet?
I have no fucking idea. I have no fucking idea. I mean, generally, you do at this time of year. Now, there's different. Like the Rams coaches are doing their interviews today. The guys who have interest, they're doing them all today because they're playing. and to have it, lined up. Like McDaniel was interviewing with Baltimore yesterday to be the head coach. Maybe he was doing a bunch of interviews that day. It's easy to do virtual interviews, jump on Zoom and do a virtual interviews. So my guess is they have, but I can't sit there and say, yes, they have, because they don't confirm interviews.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's frustrating.
It's still pretty shut. I mean, nobody knows. It's not like there's somebody out there who got the information.
Well, and at some point, an agent will, leak it, but and more likely that will be to obviously the national guys. Because
I feel like the Eagles treat the local media like shit.
Well, it's not about us. It just doesn't make sense to leave open, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense. Again, use Pumper's comment as an example. Having trouble generating interest. All you do is send out a tweet. The Eagles, we've completed an interview with Charlie Weiss Jr., Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll.
Exactly, you're right. And then we can look at the coordinators, look at the interviews, or look at the candidates that they're looking at. Now it's like, does anybody want to coach the Eagles offense? I'll tell you what, Howie Roseman went into a answer yesterday talking about how it's a great, they take it as a badge of honor when coaches get a job. What he failed to mention is that while two coordinators have gotten head coaching jobs, well, two have also been fired. It's a boom or bust position. It's a total boom or bust position. And when you look at the offensive line and them falling off, Saquon Barkley, not getting any younger, Jalen Hurts not running as much as he once did when he was a potent quarterback, A.J. Brown dropping passes in the biggest moments, Devontae Smith, by the way, dropping passes in a big moment. And nobody wants to talk about that because everybody was mad at A.J. That was a bigger drop than A.J.'s drop.
Oh, yeah, that was
3rd and 11. That would have
was
put him at the 6-yard line if he caught that ball.
Yeah, you have 1st and goal. I think it would have been a 7, but whatever.
7,
6,
8, whatever it was.
Close.
Close.
Would have been 1st and goal, plenty of time. You're probably going to win that game if he catches it.
Sheesh.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's why it was a devastating loss from the perspective of, I mean, they had so many advantages, and that's why I say players first, man. You're worried about Kevin Patullo, Devontae Smith that's dropping that ball. You're worried about Kevin Patullo. Cam Jurgens is missing a block. You're worried about Kevin Patullo, and
the other ironic
AJ's not focused.
If Devontae catches that, the narrative is completely different on Patullo because that was a good drive before they stalled.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what the NFL is. That's why I brought that, and people hated when I brought up the Rams game and how close they were to losing it. Now you see it.
Same thing. It didn't go their way.
Yeah. They very easily could have won that game. Very easily.
Well, John, on the OC search, something that you said that has always resonated with me is that most teams don't want to play offense this way. Most offensive coaches don't want to play offense this way. You look across the league. I mean, last year was an anomaly in the way we played offense. Nobody in the modern game plays offense that way. We did. We zigged when everybody zagged. Does that have a factor here on this OC search? I mean, I know you kind of laughed off. Are they not generating interest? I don't think they're not generating interest. They're a high-profile team, obviously, with a lot of great players. They're generating interest, but you got to think coordinators who are coming in here are thinking about that stuff, no? I mean, not a typical offense, not a prolific offense, under the microscope type of offense, tough city, boom or bust, either get hired or get fired. I mean, Kevin Patullo might not see another offensive coordinator job look, Brian Johnson's still not an offensive coordinator. He had a top 10 offense his first freaking year. His first year doing it. Guy's still not an OC again.
Yeah, well, this is what, was interesting because a lot of guys took pride in the fact that a lot of guys in the organization, I'm not talking about players, I'm talking about executives and coaches, a lot of guys took pride in that zigging while everybody else is zagging. And I brought up, we were talking about all the list in list season, which will be here soon enough, and about Jalen being disrespected. And I said, what I said on the show, I made the argument. I'm like, well, the majority of teams don't want to play offense the way you guys play offense. That's why they want Justin Herbert. All these and all the only ones I pay attention to, I should back up, are the Sando list, the Fowler list, who are talking to coaches and GMs and executives. And guys like in census people, they want Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts. And I said, well, these guys don't want to run the offense that you guys run. So they're thinking about it from the perspective, okay, who would make me better with what we want to do? And that's why you have so many people who think certain quarterbacks are better fits for what they want to do. So anyway, I say all that to say they took a lot of pride in, well, nobody plays it now, but maybe they'll start to copy it. And here we are. And there seem to be about to pull the plug on it. Now, and here's where it becomes difficult from my perspective, because if you do what everybody else, if you zag when everybody else is zagging, then it becomes who does it best. And if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, you really think you're going to catch up to Kyle Shanahan in 1 year? Like, in a lot of ways, from a logic standpoint, and I'm a very logical person, and sometimes I think that's a blight, because I don't think there's a lot of logical people.
I think that's a great thing. I love that about you. Pragmatic and logical.
To me, I want to be different. I want to be ahead of the curve, and different might look ugly and different, but if your goal is to win football games, nobody has won more football games in the NFC side, at least you can, and really there with Buffalo and Kansas City. Nobody's won more football games than this fucking team. And now they want to do what everybody else is doing? Doesn't make sense.
How much of that comes from external pressure?
A lot of it. I think nearly all of it. But a lot of it comes from Jeffrey, but I think a lot of it, but I think he gets his mindset from external pressure. And not even, it's more subconscious than anything else. But I mean, it exists. If you don't realize it exists. So, and those are executives I'm talking to who took pride and say, we do things differently, and maybe people will start copying us too. We have one disappointing season. We're going to pull the fucking plug and go in a different direction. Now, maybe that doesn't happen. And maybe Brian Daboll comes in here and they're very similar. They just get better because of his experience and, wisdom. And he's a better play caller and everything people want. And maybe they just keep building what they have and evolving from there. So I'm not saying it's a fait accompli, but it seems to me I'm getting all the earmarks of they want to do what everybody else does. And then it becomes, again, who does it best? And I don't think they have the personnel to play that way to do it best. They have the personnel to do it another way and do it best. And that's why I gave Nick Sirianni a lot of credit. And like I said, that this is the same discussions we were having in 2024, and they ended up doing what they always do. And it worked. And maybe it happens the same way this year. It's possible.
John, do you put Charlie Weiss in the good or bad fit category for this Eagles offense as a potential OC candidate?
Well, I don't think he's a realistic candidate. I mean, again, ordinary. Didn't work. First time play caller didn't work. You're bringing in a 32-year-old kid from college?
Yeah, no.
Does that sound realistic? They're going to go with experience and somebody who's done it at this level. And Charlie Weiss might be better. I'm not criticizing Charlie Weiss because
the optics on that are tough sell. I mean, you just
Yeah.
fired. Yeah, I agree. Tough sell. All right, so just to recap where we are, obviously Todd Monken's off the board. He's in New York, and they just got John Harbaugh. So better be aggressive, Eagles fans. The NFC East will be better next year than it was this year. You look at this league right now, man. Three of the final four NFC teams coming out of the NFC West. The NFC North has now had the Bears after they had 3 in the playoffs last year, and the Bears are the only team that weren't. A lot of change happens in the NFL, guys. If you look at some of the candidates, Stefanski's been named. Mike McDaniel. I think Stefanski's getting a head coaching job. I wouldn't even put him in the mix, but we'll find out. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Mike McDaniel, who's interviewing all over the map right now. Clint Kubiak, Cliff Kingsbury, Greg Roman, Brian Dable. I put Scott Loeffler on there because I thought maybe it was an option, but he probably won't even be back as the QB coach. So we will see, John. Any feeling on which way they're going to go here? Will they go more dual threat, Greg Roman, Dable, or will they maybe look to, like you said, go the Chip Kelly route, put it all out there and see if it's.
Well, that's my concern. From my perspective, I would go Dayball 1, Roman 2, which are not sexy. And, there's been a lot of sort of from what we've gotten from Josina and Diana, a lot of McDaniel, Stefanski. Who else am I missing?
Can't think of Kingsbury.
Some Kingsbury. I'm surprised Kingsbury isn't more. Kingsbury's kind of in the middle. I would like Kingsbury.
Well, he's out in Washington.
If they're willing to, let Clip have his coaches, I think he'd be a good fit. I'd put him in the good category.
Who was that? Who would you put in the good category?
Kingsbury.
Oh yeah, I put him over there too. Why do you think he left Washington? Wasn't fired. It was like a mutual parting.
I don't think it was mutual.
I
think, yeah. Well, I mean, they felt enough that, they wanted to spin it that way. So
wait a second. Let me get this right. So they go to the NFC Championship game last year. He loses Jaden Daniels for, I think, more than half of the year. And you're telling me that dumbass organization fired him? I mean, we might have some problems with the Eagles, but Commander fans, if you're listening, James Jones, if you're in here, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. I looked at it as maybe Kingsbury wanted to go a different route.
I mean, I'm not down there, but from all indications, they like David Blau, who is a backup quarterback, and I think he's ready to very young, and I think he's ready to be a Ben Johnson type. Everybody's looking for Ben Johnson.
Oh man, that's a stupid organization. They should have moved on from Dan Quinn.
And that's always different. There's one of the guys who's hot and might be an underreported, might get one of these coaching jobs is Grant Udinsky from Jacksonville, who's like 30 years old, and he's supposedly like a football rain man when it comes to offensive football. And he was with O'Connell, and before he got the offensive coordinator's job with Jacksonville, and they would rave about him. But they have Wes Phillips, who's Wade Phillips' son, And they probably should have fired Wes Phillips and kept him as the offensive coordinator, but they didn't. Because this is a weird thing about football. Sometimes you have a guy like who's better, but you don't promote him at the right time, and then they get pilfered. I think that's what Washington felt about David Blau. But none of these guys are proven.
Is it Blau or is it Block like Shuck?
I think it's Blau, but I could be wrong.
Who knows what it is?
He has played. He played a little bit. He started some games. When he was a backup, never won. I think he never won a game. But he played as a backup in Detroit and I think Arizona. And he wasn't a very good quarterback. But that's that doesn't mean you're not a good coach. So I think they thought he was long-term. He's better than Cliff. And that's one of those deals. And that's a very difficult decision to make. Most teams don't make that. They could end up being right and look like geniuses. But I don't know. I think Cliff did a pretty good job.
Well, we'll find out if he's a candidate here in Philadelphia. Going to be interesting to see who the Eagles end up with. Johnny Mack. I think it's going to be not a veteran, but somebody with obviously some experience strictly because of the optics. But that limits your pool. And then Brian Dable. Maybe it's going to be Brian Dable, John. It might be.
I would champion that move.
You think that'd be a good move?
I think it'd be a great move.
You think there'd be any concern about how he would fit in with Nick Sirianni? I mean, just coming off the head
coach. Those two are very close.
Oh, they like each other, Dable and Nick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, Nick considers Dayball one of the most important people to his career. They were only together 1 year in Kansas City, but really had a big impact on Nick. Loves the dude. So I mean, a lot of people bring up his history with Jalen Hurts and Alabama, but I think those two are fine. They've always spoken highly of each other. I think if anything, Jalen would blame Saban for that.
Yeah, blame. There's nobody to blame. The offense was
I mean, you know what I mean. I mean, people get benched and they have animus to. That's just the way it is.
I got you.
So I don't think that's an impact at all. He's got a history with mobile quarterbacks and most notably Josh Allen, which some people will say is easy and probably is, but also Daniel Jones. He had him playing at a high level till he got, hurt. So a lot of people say, well, Daniel Jones, Shane deserves a lot of credit. The Giants made the playoffs that 1 year, and he was playing well under Brian Daboll, so he deserves credit. He's got a history with Saquon. Saquon likes him. A lot of boxes checked, and he's got experience. He's done it. He's done it at a high level. I don't think anybody checks more boxes than Brian Daboll, because other guys like Stefanski and McDaniel, again, you're shifting. It's more dramatic change on the offense. And they don't have the history with Nick and the history with Jalen, the history with Saquon, and like a lot of boxes on Brian Daboll. Now, there's some bad as well. You can't break into the injury tent and try to get your quarterback out there on the concussion. So you got to have some discussions, but I think of all these spoken about options, and I by no means do I think he's number one on the Eagles list, but I think he'd be the best fit.
We will see what they end up doing. Pump, thanks for the super chat, brother. Appreciate you, man. Here is a couple more super chats we will get to today. I want to thank everybody for being here. Kyle Studer, what's up, Kyle? John, how much of the defense's recent draft success comes from Vic knowing exactly what he wants? I have doubts when it comes to drafting offense.
Actually, well, no, I don't. I know people want the coaches come in very late to the scouting process, Now, Howie has learned over the years that, look, good GMs listen to what their coaches want, and you don't take players that your coaches don't want. So they're always involved, but they don't have a huge impact on the draft. And if you go back to the Jalen Reagor pick was the crux for Howie, because he got a lot of shit for that pick, and rightfully so, because it's his pick. But that's who the coaching staff wanted, the scouting department wanted, Justin Jefferson. And it was at that point he said, you know what? If I'm going to take the shit, I'm going to take the guys I believe are the best for the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman is in charge of the draft. Make no mistake about it. Vic isn't telling him what to do. But he has gotten to the point, and this was when he got sent to the broom closet. I talk about it all the time. He went to visit successful executives. And while it looks bad that he demoted, if you can call giving him an elevated job title and more money a demotion, but from a football perspective, it certainly was a demotion. A lot of people argue that's Jeffrey Lurie's biggest mistake. But I don't think if he's not put in a place and rethought his career. In other words, without Howie Roseman 1.0, there's not Howie Roseman 2.0. Without the failures of 1.0, 2.0 doesn't exist. But he is in charge of the Eagles draft. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Kyle, appreciate the super chat. It's a fair point, though, Kyle. I understand where you're coming from because they're about to, as Howie mentioned, they're going to have to draft some offensive players if the defense is getting paid. Here is John. What's up, John? The defense couldn't stop Purdy's ball placement. Purdy is elite at that, John.
Yeah, well, look at the angle route by Christian McCaffrey. You could have had the ball placement of John McMullen or Zander Krause. You were getting a touchdown as long as you got it near him. There's a lot of separation there.
You don't like Purdy. John, this goes back to you and Jody used to debate about Brock Purdy. You don't like Purdy. That's not
the case. I think he's a fine quarterback. I don't think he's top tier. I don't think he's.
I like him.
One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a solid system style quarterback. And he's in the right system with the right coach. And he's doing a good job.
Definitely an elite processor, John.
He's doing a good job. But remember, Jawan Jennings is making a big throw in that game.
Yeah, but Purdy also delivers the ball, man. He makes some big throws over the middle of the field that are tough, layered throws.
Well, the guy, look, they're NFL quarterbacks. Of course, he can make big throws, but you see some of the, one of the disappointing, I know nobody wants to talk about the defense, very poor pass rushing performance. And the one time they kind of got home, he throws the pick. Like, if there's a consistent pass rush, what does it look like?
Well, that's every quarterback. Brady's kryptonite was a pass rush.
Well, every quarterback's kryptonite is the pass rush. Yeah. But what I'm saying is they didn't have a very good pass rush. So, yes, he's going to look better in that particular game. I think at times this year, as I said, Mac Jones ran that offense better than he did.
Mac Jones is a good player, too. Ask Devontae Smith. It's true. Here's John again. Not what they want. It's not what they want to do. What they have to do. Offense. He's referring to the offense.
Well, what do they have to do?
You don't have to play the style with the quarterback. That's what he's saying.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think you have to do anything to Nick's point. There's a lot of ways to win, but the easiest way to win is to build an offense around your players. So, that's why we asked to clarify, not what they want to do, what they have to do. You never have to do anything. It's smart to build around the players you have. But there's a lot of ways to win football games. And that shifts, and that's why I always bring up the Larry Karras story that he tells us that, but I think that was an interesting look at a guy who is probably the biggest impact on Nick Sirianni and his mentality, which has turned into Nick's mentality is, he asked him the question, first coaching job, what offense do you want to run? And again, a lot of young coaches in this league are going to say what they think you want to hear. And he started saying what he thought Larry wanted to hear. And he was wrong. And he got stopped right away and said, you don't even know who your players are. In other words, you can't build an offense until you know the strengths of your players. And right now, the strength of Jalen Hurts as a quarterback is not a Kyle Shanahan offense. If people can't understand that, I can't help you.
Agreed. Here is Pump. What's up, Pump? Thanks for the super again, brother. Fellas, can we finally say Howie's don't extend during the season policy is effing dumb? 2 straight Super Bowl runs. This has hurt us. Change it up, Howard.
I mean, you can't win the Super Bowl every year, as it's something he mentioned. But just from a realistic standpoint, I mean, that by and large, when his policy is, well, if you extend, one player and not another player, how is it going to impact the locker room when you're making a run to the Super Bowl? When he does extend players, it's when they're not going to the Super Bowl. Then it's like, all right, we want to get this guy done early. The whole point behind it is not alienating someone else. It's a very delicate ecosystem. Now, in this case, who are you going to extend? You had to wait after the season for Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. You could have extended Jordan Davis in the season. If you extend Jordan Davis, what is Reed Blankenship going to say? If you extend Reed Blankenship after telling Dallas Goedert to get a $4 million financial haircut while he's scoring 13 touchdowns, what's he going to say? That the policy actually makes a lot of sense because there's plenty of time to get this shit done in the off season. So why upset the apple cart in the locker room if that's a potential possibility? And it might not upset it, but it might. So why tempt fate?
Pump, thanks for the super. Here's Freaking Rican. Interesting name, Freaking Rican. When defense catches up to scheme, the scheme has to change. Last year we had talent and a decent scheme. This year it was horrible. 23, it was horrible. All right.
It's always the scheme. Maybe the players weren't as good. I mean, I can't.
Why was the scheme horrible? Can someone explain to me why the scheme is hard? Why do people think the scheme is horrible in 23?
Yeah. Welcome to my world, man.
It was a top 10 offense. So they ran a couple more bubble screens than you would like in 23. They were a top 10 off. I'll take those bubble screens all day this year.
Remember, it really the best indication of that is not 2023 in the offense. It's 2022 in the defense, which was literally number 2 in the NFL. And all the advanced statistics, very good. You have 70 sacks, which I think at 5 to 15 to do it in NFL history. And you will say people die on a cross that the scheme sucked, which, by the way, the scheme is Vic Fangio's scheme. Same scheme. Yeah, I mean, people don't want to blame players for not executing. That's just the nature of it. And And Jordan Mailata talked about that. It's like they don't want to blame the guy who makes $22 million and bought the jersey. Nobody's buying Kevin Patullo jerseys. Nobody, and forget about the guys who are a failure. In the revisionist history world, and here's the clear revisionist history. Last year we had talent and a decent scheme, so it's not over the top. So I'll go through, but it's a decent scheme because you won the Super Bowl. It's the same damn scheme as this year. Now you can say defense has caught up.
Maybe it needed to evolve a little bit, but
they try to evolve it. How many different things? And that's another part. Ironically, they did more different things this year than they've ever done before. Going under center. Is that not evolving? No, it's not evolving. You know why it's not evolving, Zander? Because it didn't fucking work that well.
Agreed. I know that. You don't have to explain it to me. I understand it. I just think.
What about all the red zone stuff? What about all the new red zone stuff? And that was actually successful. I mean, there was a lot of.
There's some rumors out there that was Scott Loeffler more than Kevin Patullo.
Yeah, well, there's rumors from fucking idiots.
Yeah, I agree.
It wasn't Scott fucking Loeffler. In fact, Patullo has a passion for the red zone. In fact, if you want to blame Patullo, which I know everybody does, you blame him for focusing too much on the fucking red zone at the expense of everywhere else on the field, because the guy was obsessed with red zone. You know, if you go back to the Super Bowl week, there was a Kenny Pickett interview. People can look it up. Talking about Kevin Patullo as the secret weapon. Talking about Kevin Patullo being the biggest impact on the red zone, the 2-minute offense, and the and game planning. And he was very close to Kellen. So Kellen gave him a lot of responsibility. Don't buy some bullshit screen scout going back to Bowling Green and saying they ran the same play. Everybody runs the same fucking plays. You're getting grifted.
Let's keep rolling. Freaking Reekin. Thanks for the super. Pump, what up, Pump? OMG, what an angle route. Like, fellas, come on, man. Are we really doing this? That bum pass rush didn't do squat, and Jalen's offense blows.
Well, it was quite an angle route, so I disagree with you there. But you're right. The pass rush stunk in that game, which is disappointing because that, especially in the interior guys, because that's where I thought they had the huge advantage, and it just wasn't good. So, as usual with Pump, there's a little snippet of truth, and then he just goes off the rails.
And he goes off. He is funny. Yeah. Pump, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. All right, John, let's get off the Eagles. I'm just talking about the fucking Eagles. All right, let's look at these games.
Stop when you're hosting Birds 365.
I know. I'm aware of this. I'm aware of this, J-Mac. You don't got to remind me here. All right, let's look at this NFL divisional round games this weekend. All right, John, we got 4 games, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. First game, Saturday, 4:30. Bills, Broncos. What do you like in that game, John? You got the great Broncos defense. You got the Bills team, which just lost 2 more. John, they already had no receivers. Now they lost Gabe Davis and Shavers, both of them torn ACLs. They're without 2 more receivers, less than they already had. And that Broncos team obviously has that great defense. What do you think of that early game?
I'm starting to ship towards, all right, Josh Allen's going to just play Superman and get this team over the hump. Now, those receivers, look, I always disappointing when somebody gets hurt, especially torn ACL. But Gabe Davis is not relevant.
No, he's not. But I just mean, like, dude, they don't have bodies. John, they're down.
Well, they're actually getting better because they got Coleman back on the field. He made a big play.
Yeah. So
Brandon Cooks is playing well now after struggling. So they're getting better. And then Shakir's obviously has been their best receiver. So they're actually getting slightly better. Now, they're not great. I still don't like their talent level, but I think their defense is and they might get Ed. I haven't seen Ed Oliver. They started his window. If he gets back, that's big. The Broncos, look, I mean, they're the number 1 seed. They've won a lot of games. They have a good defense. I don't trust the quarterback. That's what it comes down to. The head coach is an egomaniac. I'm going to bet on Josh Allen for the upset.
I like it. I'm feeling that way too. We will see. The only thing that could stop that pass rush it's a good pass rush, man. All right, John. The next game on Saturday, 8 p.m. 49ers at Seahawks. I don't know, maybe not the game. All good games this weekend, but that's a damn good game right there. 49ers, Seahawks. What do you think going into it?
Well, I think the Seahawks are going to smother them defensively. And I think you're going to see the difference if you play well defensively. Seattle's very good defense at home. But Sam Darnold showed up on the freaking injury report. It's an oblique injury. Yeah. I mean, they can't win with Drew Lock.
He'll play, right?
I think he's going to try to play, but I mean, that throws a hole. And I know nobody believes in him, but I mean, you got to be realistic. You might not believe in Sam Darnold. That's fine. But do you believe in him over Drew Lock? If not, you need some help. So to me, it's all about how healthy the quarterback is. If the quarterback is even,
oblique is what in here, John? Like midsection?
Oblique is it's sort of outside of your waist. And it ain't good for a quarterback. And it happened during the week. That is not a good sign. So that shifts my thinking. If it's just minor and he's okay, and whether he's taking a shot or not, he can play. I think they win the game pretty easily.
I smell a Niner upset here.
Well, if it's Drew Lock, the Niners are going to win the game. I still think it's going to be.
Yeah, but what if somebody's struggling because of the oblique?
Well, that's a possibility too.
Speed him up, mess him up a little bit. Maybe you do get a couple classic Darnold picks because of that oblique is affecting him a little bit.
I think you're going to get a couple Purdy picks.
Well, you could with that defense for sure. Hey, the Eagles got a couple. Didn't work out, did it?
And maybe Seattle gets a defensive touchdown. Still leaning towards Seattle because of that defense. Tough place to play. Really tough place to play. Yeah. Still leaning Seattle, but the Darnold injury, there's some caution with that pick.
Interesting. That's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to that. I'll say this as an Eagle fan. Obviously, you want to be playing, but let's call a spade a spade. This season wasn't fun. How many times do we try and tell ourselves this was fun to watch or, they win? Da, da, da. This season was miserable. The offense was miserable. It was hard to watch at times. It was hard to talk about because you got to criticize it, but everyone's like, we won the Super Bowl. Shut up. This season, I feel a sigh of relief. I get to watch some football. Carefree this weekend without giving a shit about where the Eagles are. Here's the divisional round on Sunday, John. Texans, Patriots, first game Sunday at 3 p.m. in New England. What do you think?
I think that's going to be an ugly, grinded out game. I don't know what the weather's going to be. I haven't checked. So, but it's probably going to be cold. Not probably, but boy, I mean, the Texans defense is just, we just talked about Denver's defense. We talked about Seattle's defense. The best defense in football is the Houston Texans. They are dominant. Now, CJ Stroud is stinking up the joint. But I think, and obviously Drake May's had a tremendous season, but I think he's going to struggle against that defense and that pass rush.
He's a bad processor.
That defense is relentless.
No, I'm talking about CJ's a bad processor.
Oh, CJ.
Slow.
Yeah, he's not having a good season. But I think it's going to be like a 13-10 game, and I think
I got the Patriots winning.
I think Houston's going to upset them.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Pats. You're taking the Texans. That defense is damn good. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really close to the best game. Really close to the best. I don't think there's going to be a lot of offense at all.
We'll see. You're not going to get much from the Texans. They're kind of like the Eagles. Like they need their defense to take over the game because their offense doesn't do shit. Stroud has struggled. And then the final game of the divisional round weekend, Rams in Chicago. Sunday night, 6:30. Finally, they gave us a game that's a reasonable time. Well, the game will be over by 10 p.m. Nice.
Yeah, Sunday division round's always 6:30. It is interesting because they do Saturday. They do the 4:38 bullshit. They should do 3 and 6:30 both days. But whatever. They've always done it that way. Yeah, the Rams are the best team in football. Haven't been playing like it recently. They're the 5th seed, which they shouldn't be. And the Bears are the Bears, and they're probably going to play bad early and make a comeback late. And it's going to be, can they get over the hump late in the game? And they have done, you got to give Caleb credit, man. Will he pull the play out of his you-know-what, or won't he? That'll probably decide this game. But I'm until the Rams lose, I'm the Rams because I think they're the best team in football.
So this is my take here on this game. I've liked the Bears all year. I think their run comes to an end here. And this is mainly because of my good buddy who passed away this year, Pat Callahan, who hosted This Week in Pro Football right here on JAKIB Sports for the last 3 years. He was as big a Ram fan as you can get.
Really?
And I'm feeling like the Rams go and get the W. And in my mind, it'll be for the great Pat Callahan. Pat, we love you, brother. Rest in peace. And we think of his family. But that's why I'm going to take the Rams, John. I'm feeling like I said that earlier. I think the Rams might go on and win it. And in my mind, it'll be because of Pat Callahan. Obviously, it won't be because of that, but I think it'll be a great homage to Pat Callahan. So I got the Rams winning, John, and the Bears run comes to an end.
Yeah, I mean, boy, I picked a lot of upsets. I picked a lot of road teams, which is never probably not going to happen, to be honest, because it is difficult to win on the road in the NFL playoffs. But there's a confidence level. Like I think the Bills are coming out. I'm pretty. If I had to rate confidence level of all these upsets, Rams number 1, Bills number 2. Texans number 3, and then 49ers would be 4th to upset Seattle. But yeah, in my case, I took 3 upsets. So I took Bills, Texans, Rams. Probably not going to happen that way, but that tells you the upheaval of this season. There is no team where you say, all right, they can't win this game. In this group, and there's no team you say can't lose this game in this group, and that makes it fun and exciting. But it also points out that the Eagles aren't as far away, I think, as people think. And I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about in their own building. A little too much panic for my take. Howie said you can't win the Super Bowl every year, and they act like, the sky's falling.
Right. So this is interesting, though, John. Here's me getting ahead of myself. I added Chicago to my weather app because I'm like, the Eagles might go and play Chicago. Let me keep an eye on the weather for next week. Dude, that's going to be a wicked game, John.
That also trends Bears.
Yeah, I agree. It's supposed to be 20 degrees at night, and it feels like it's going to be in the negatives after 9 p.m. It's going to be like -5 degrees by 11 p.m.
It's brutal there.
The wind is going to pick up. Looks like it's going to be up to 38 mile an hour gust Brutal temperatures in Chicago, the Windy City. You ever been to? Oh shit, you've been to Chicago, I'm sure, many times.
Many times.
Yeah.
Last time we were there, it was brutal. That's
Yeah.
where Jalen got hurt, and hurt his shoulder. Boy, it was brutally cold that day. Remember, he said he couldn't feel his hands. I remember standing outside.
Chicago's no joke when it gets cold there.
Yeah. Now, and we saw it here because it was a weather game when the Bears were here. It's going to impact both of the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
I think
Stafford's not. I mean, Eduardo says Rams are horrendous in the cold. Stafford did throw for like 330 versus us in the.
Yeah.
No
he's better equipped to handle it than
Yeah.
Caleb. But the Rams as a whole, I mean, yeah, they're a pseudo dome team. It's not actually a dome, but obviously Los Angeles. SoFi is sort of open air, but you got the roof over the top. Yeah, but I mean, the Bears don't play like a traditional. They do in the running game, but not in the passing game. The passing game is a shit show when it gets windy and cold.
But holy crap, does that kid have some arm talent, John? And you've been talking honestly, when you first said it, I knew Caleb got drafted high for a reason. I didn't know it was to this level because you at one point had said he's got maybe some of the best arm talent in all the league. And I heard that. I'm like, damn, really, John? Is that where you're going with that? And now that I've really watched them a lot this year, that kid's got some. Now he's got to be more consistent, and the offense is struggling. But holy crap, if he pieces it together, his arm talent, you're right, is second to none.
Yeah, he can't. He makes throws that nobody else can make.
Crazy.
That fourth down play. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
It really was.
And when he's blushing right, which is typically terrible for quarterbacks, you're generally giving up on the play. He's got the ability to whip it on a line 30, 40 yards downfield. It's almost like defenders go, well, he can't make this throw. Well, he can make that throw. So you better plaster. And if he ever does get the consistency, he's going to be special. But I don't know if he's ever going to get the consistency.
Yeah, we'll find out. I think Ben is the right guy to help him get closer to that. But you're right. He's got to get it or else it will eventually wane. You can't live off schedule forever. In moments it works. You can't do it forever. All right, John.
I'll tell you what, though, that Colston Loveland, he is a beast, man.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. Everybody, when they drafted him first, you remember when they took him above Warren? Everyone
everybody lost their mind. He's better.
Yeah, he's better.
Well, I don't know if he's better, but he's
more equipped in that offense for sure.
Yeah. Because Warren's very good too, but he's very explosive, and that's rare when you have a tight end that explosive.
All right, good stuff. Appreciate everybody being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button. Some good football this weekend, guys, with the weight of the Eagles off your shoulders. All right, let's get to these last couple supers.
I don't think people are happy about that, though.
No, they're not. I'd rather take the weight, but, it does feel kind of good. You don't got to fucking worry about it.
Would be in Chicago with that weather. Boy, I think the Eagles would beat the Bears, too. That's tough. But, they're uneven year, ends probably the way it should have ended.
Good stuff. All right, let's finish up with some super chats here. Mart, you can end that segment there, brother, if you're listening. Appreciate you, Mart. Here's John. I'm happy to not see 10 passing yards in 2 quarters.
Yeah. I mean, look, the lulls were tough to explain. Usually when you have a bad offense, you have a bad offense. The Eagles had a very efficient offense when they would get a first down, and they never got far too often. They never got the first down. It's weird offense.
John, thanks. Here's Pumper. I know the season was going to be bad when J-Mac and others reported that most of training camp was swing passes to shit play.
Yeah, a lot of swing passes. Not just Saquon involved too, but
Well, it is funny, John, looking back on that, because I do remember when we did our camp segments every day, you kept saying it, and it really did bear out to be the way they played.
yeah.
And
Well, they didn't throw a lot of swing passes. But
no, they did. But you always said they don't push the ball at all.
no, they didn't push the ball at all in training camp, which is, I mean, a lot of people don't understand training camp. It's not designed to score touchdowns or make plays. You're trying to get better at, different increments of what you're trying to do. But it was noticeable. They rarely tried to push it down the field. And they were trying to get better in the short and intermediate stuff, which they're just not good at. And it's like, we always talk about dump it off to the running back. They just don't do that. They don't have that player.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if they had that player.
Which I think I think Mike McDaniel would hate that.
You would think. Yeah, that I know Devin Achane ain't coming with him.
No,
so.
And Devin Achane can play. That kid's good.
But I mean, Saquon's better, but he's better differently.
Yeah.
So you have to utilize what he does well. And that should be the crux of good coaching. Like if you gave me 100 choices, Saquon Barkley, even at this point, coming off a poor season, Devin Achane coming off a good season, I'm taking Saquon. But you have to play a different way. You don't do what you do with Devin Achane with Saquon Barkley, and vice versa, I might add.
I mean, John, are you sure Saquon's better? I mean, he had 1350.
I am sure he's better.
All right, let me just give you, I know it's 1 year, and a lot of it is dependent on what's around you, but 1350 at 5.7 a carry this year, and he also had 67 receptions for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a weapon.
I get it.
Like he's like
he's a weapon.
Not McCaffrey's level, but that's his skill set.
He's a weapon in the way that, and Mike McDaniel deserves credit for that, and the way he uses him. And he's a perfect fit for what Mike McDaniel wants to do.
Yeah, right.
But what I said is he's not coming with them. Now, if you pluck Devin Achane and put him into the Eagles offense, it wouldn't look good.
No, because they'd be asking him to, be a bell cow. It wouldn't work. All right, good stuff. Pump, thanks for the super chat. All right, John, to wrap it up here, we got about 8 or 9 minutes left on the show today. I'm looking at, let's just zoom out. All right, we're now wrapped up the first week of the Eagles offseason. A lot of it was bogged by talking about obviously the collapse, the loss that they had versus the 49ers, the offensive coordinator firing. Let's kind of just zoom out a little bit and look at what's going to go on in the next 6 months, where the Eagles are. You look at the draft. You look at the maintenance of the offseason. Is it going to be a maintenance? Is it going to be aggressive? How aggressive? Free agents, trades? What do we think's on the agenda? What are the needs in the draft? What free agents are a top priority? When you kind of zoom out, John, and look at the offseason from a macro perspective, what do you think the goal is of this team, to kind of get back into contention next year? And what do you think the big picture, what do you think the story of the offseason will be? Last year it was maintenance. This year it will be what?
Yeah, clearly the offense and the offensive coordinator. Is it Brian Daboll? And are you trying to elevate what you've been doing, which I think, or is it Mike McDaniel and you're trying to go a completely different direction? That to me is the story of the offseason right there. By the way, quick note, Clint Hurts, Eagles defensive line coach, is going to be one of the head coaches at the Senior Bowl. So the Eagles will get, if they keep Clint Hurt, who knows? I assume they're keeping the defensive coaches.
Yeah, they should. Clint's been great. I mean, Jordan Davis just had a great freaking year.
Yeah, but they're in this mode of moving on, so we'll see. I think he'll be back because Vic will want his guys back, but he's going to be one of the head coaches along with Joel Thomas of the Saints, so that will give the Eagles a leg up when looking at some of the prospects down at the Senior Bowl. So just quick news. Clint Hurt, congratulations to him. Yeah, I mean, the offensive, more of what style of offense they're going to go with. And it seems like from all indications, they're trying to go in a different direction. I don't know if that's the right way to go, but that's going to be the story of the offseason.
Yep, we will see. Anything? What do you think the most like pressing needs are, John? Like in the draft or free agent? I know you don't draft based on position, but it's been pretty
offensive
clear what they've
line.
kind of needed. We're offensive line. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Now, it'll shift. Like if you can't sign Jalen Phillips, then you got to start talking about edge rusher.
Yep.
If
receivers in play, if AJ's on the outs.
well, if you trade AJ, you got to get a receiver. You can't go with Darius Cooper. No offense to Darius Cooper.
Man, well, ask the Titans how that worked out when they decided to trade AJ Brown and replace him with a draft guy.
Yeah, well,
I got news for everybody. I don't give a shit who you get in the draft. He ain't going to be AJ Brown, and certainly not in this offense. It's not really the offense that allows receivers to come into the game and take over like you've seen some other receivers do.
Well, yeah, but if they change the offense and they're playing a different style, who knows? But Mike McDaniel's here. Maybe it's different.
Here's two good questions from Roll to wrap it up. I like this question. Zay, John, do you think Jalen or Nick's seat is hotter next year?
I think both are hot. I think Jalen's is slightly hotter.
That's kind of how I would see it. And then his next question: why haven't we heard of any interviews? So, John, he might not have been here when you were ripping for that.
Clip it.
Around.
I went off. It's very frustrating. The Eagles do not confirm interviews. It drives me insane. In fact, I'm going to text some people about that after the show because it's driving me flipping insane, and they should do it because everybody else does it.
Pumper's narrative will gain some steam, John, if they do not.
Doesn't make any sense. From their perspective, it doesn't make any sense because you have the pumper type. You're opening yourself up to that. Nobody wants to interview with the Eagles, blah, 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 which is bullshit. But that's what you have when you play this game, and there's no need to play it.
See, this stuff is a factor. Nate Schilhaas, that guy that's the Rams, he's interviewing with the Steelers and the Raiders today, the Ravens on Saturday, and then he's got the game versus the Bears on Sunday. Now, he's not McVay, but still, I do find that interesting how these coaches – this is a tough time of the year if you're playing an interview.
It happens all the time. This was all the bullshit during the Cannon.
No, it does happen, but I think it's a factor. I know it happens, but it's not something you can avoid.
It's not a factor. They have downtime. It's not 24/7.
You got to prepare for a big interview. Come on.
No. They've been prepared. As Nick says, and Nick has said this many times, been asked this, but you're preparing for these interviews your entire life.
I know it's the biggest promotion, potential biggest promotion of his career.
God, it's one of the most overblown fan narratives there is. Guys,
really?
It happens.
You don't think Nate Schilhaas is going to be
everybody, the Rams, every single guy has been. Chris Shula's got 7 freaking interviews today.
All right, if you tell me it's overblown, I'll take your word for it.
7 interviews he's got lined up today. 7 interviews. And he already talked about it. If you think these guys spend their whole freaking lives to win a Super Bowl, if you think they're not trying to win football games, I mean, the disconnect is you're thinking about this 24/7. No, you have downtime, you have family, you go to dinner. Sometimes you take somebody. That's where really you're taking time out of your personal life. You're not taking time out of your business life. You're not taking interviews on Los Angeles Rams time. You're taking interviews on your personal time. Now, to your point, if guys are unfocused because they're thinking about, oh, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator of someone, or I'm going to be the head coach of someone. Well, they probably wouldn't be in the position they are if they can't compartmentalize that stuff to begin with.
Johnny Mac, your final thoughts. The first week of the offseason, my friend. We got a long one ahead of us, John. Your final thoughts here on the week.
Enjoy the playoff games, as you said. No rooting interest, and but I would recommend. I would recommend Eagles fans do watch the playoffs games. Don't check it out. If you're a football fan, watch the games. Watch the other teams because I think that's the most frustrating part to me. And it's not just the Eagles fan base. You don't pay attention. A lot of fan bases don't pay attention to the rest of the league. And if you don't pay attention to the rest of the league, you don't have the context to evaluate what's going on with your team.
Right. It's true. John, good show, man. Enjoy your weekend, John. Got your Sunday back, brother. I will talk to you on Monday. All right, man.
All right. See y'all.
All right. Thanks, John. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show. Great week of shows this week. The off season is off and running, everybody. The off season is off and running. We have yet to get a confirmation on an interview. What the hell's going on down there at NovaCare Complex? Is there anything going on down there at the NovaCare Complex? Nick Sirianni, are you out there? Kevin Patullo, are you out there? What is going on down there? What's going on, everybody? Good to have everybody in here today. Sorry, Pump, I missed your last super for John, but I'll read it. I believe McDaniel, he's going to be McDaniels, I guess, when it comes to Philly. McDaniel would be able to make it work here. He's used to a statue QB who's scared to get hit and has processing issues. Easy day. Oh, I'm yawning. Sorry, everybody. James, what's up, brother? James Jones, good to see you in here, Jammers. I'm yawning. I was up till 2:50 last night. Yeah, why? Well, I was working on something, but I looked up at my thing. I'm like, holy shit, it's 2:20. Wrapped it up, went up, got out of here, and then you get in bed. You can't fall asleep right away. Oh boy. Let me check what my whoop says. What the whoop say? What's the whoop say? Yeah, 2:50. 2:50 to 7 a.m. Oh, 4 hours, folks. 4 hours. Martez says, Hurts is him. All right, Martez. Well, time to fucking be him, Martez. It's time to be him. I don't want to hear about it. I want to see it. I don't need Jalenites telling me he's him. I want you to show me that he's him. Why does he need you to speak for him? Put it on the field. Be him on the field. Come on, Martez. Come on, Martez. Appreciate you for being here. Appreciate you for being here. Here's Theo. Eagles have to go through all the rejections of requests. All right. Gary, me too. I do fine on 4. You know, I guess when I get older, I won't be able to. But also, Gary, I think I'm going to go with that LG. I didn't make the move yet. I got to get this YouTube check-in, bro. I'm tight. I can't pull the trigger yet. So I got to wait another couple of days. But I do like that one. Gary, I was really trying to find I wanted a big curved one, curved monitor. But I can't find one with a high PPI that's curved. So I don't know. I'll probably just rock with that LG. So we'll see. But I leave it to John. Of course, it's a pause. Of course, John. You got Diddy on your mind, John. Yeah, Gary, it's tough. Bruce, what up, Bruce? Not to be confused with Brucey from The Longest Yard. Your breath smells like 8 cans of shark shit. You guys know that line? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're a goon. Who knows? All right, guys. I'm not sticking around long today. All right, the chat's dead. I got some shit to do. So we will see. Hurts is a coach killer? Brandon, you're calling him that? Wow. 8 cans of bounce that ass. That's what I know. Abe, that's a pause. That's qualifying of a pause. Here's Abe. I don't know if Kurt was hitting at this scheme looking elementary and it's for Jalen or that he's hitting at the teaching of the scheme is unorthodox. Abe, I'll watch that video when I get off. You working on Dr. King? Yeah, we'll be here. What's that? Is that Monday? Is that Monday, Keith? Martin Luther King Day? I don't even know, dude. Yeah, it's Monday. Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be here. Here's Kareem. Kareem is back. What up, Kareem? You know, Kareem, whether we disagree or not is not the point. It's good to have you in here, my guy. Keep the same energy next year when Jalen Hurts bounces back. I don't want you to be a bandwagon. All right, Kareem. Wait, Kareem, let me ask you something, Kareem. Appreciate the comment. Do I now need your approval on how I'm a fan and who I'm a fan of? Kareem, when I take a shit this morning, if you give me your number, I'll give you a call so I can ask you if I'm allowed to wipe my ass. Is that all right too? Is that what's next, Kareem? Kareem, I got to go hit the supermarket. Hey, Kareem, can I get your approval? Hey, Kareem, love you, brother. Shut your bitch ass up. I don't want you to be a fan this way. Shut up. Shut up. Fucking Kareem. Not to be confused with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Here's Boulevard. Apparently, Jason Avant went off on Jalen on Howard Eskin's show. Yeah, Howard Eskin's show is fire. I didn't see it yet, but I heard it was fire. Impulsive. Thank you, bro. Xander, thanks for an amazing season. Love this channel and your content. First class all the way, brother. Go Birds. You know, it's funny. I never did that. I should thank everybody. Another good season in the chamber. Thanks, everybody, for listening, man, all year long. It's always good, man. I love the community. I love talking with you guys every day. We'll see what the offseason holds, not only for the team, but for Jacob, but for me, for everybody. But I do want to say I appreciate every one of you, even Kareem, even guys who are haters or whatever, who don't like us or who think we're whatever the case may be. I'm good with it. You know, it's part of the business. It's part of talking about the sports. It's part of, you know, putting yourself out there to do this, and it's part of building this business. So I do appreciate all of you guys. It means a lot to me to support the business and to support the channel and to send super chats and memberships and all the things you guys do. So I do appreciate it. And I got a couple more things left to give away this year. I know we didn't do as many as I liked, but I got a bunch more shit. So we'll give it away. All right. We'll give it away. And I do again. Thanks, everybody, man, from the bottom of my heart. I love all you guys. I appreciate all you guys. It means a lot to me. All right. So thank you very much. And Jason, I agree. Off season is more fun, especially Jason when not to be blunt, but when they lose, there's just a lot to talk about. They're going to make moves. They're trying to get better. You know, it's like the chase, guys. Last year, football is the never-ending chase. In a way, it's a chase for the ghost. You know, and very rarely do you reach the mountaintop. Okay, very rarely do you reach the top of the mountain, the pinnacle of the sport, the highest achievement, which we all root for every single year and every single day, really, because Eagle fans are diehard fans. Last year we reached it, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing. It really was. It was an amazing thing. In the offseason, I think it changes how you view the team. Remember, though, the good times aren't as good as they were without having the struggle that you had to get there or the journey you have to get there. And the bad times aren't as bad without reaching the pinnacle. And in a way, I think life is beautiful in that way. You know, it's meant to happen that way. You know, we wouldn't be pissed if we lost a playoff game if we weren't reaching the pinnacle and having great expectations for our team. So it's cyclical. It's, in a way, the most beautiful part of being a fan is that you're on the never-ending pursuit with the team, you know, to ultimately feel the satisfaction that we get from being fans of our favorite football teams. So last year was amazing, man. They win the fucking Super Bowl. They beat the ever-living shit out of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We parade on Broad Street. One of the best days of my life. Legitimately, the parade was one of the best days of my life. Not because I'm an Eagle fan either. I have a different perspective, obviously, because of what I do. Just being down there, meeting everybody who walked up to me, Zander, I love your shows. I love the content. Meeting all the great people, Akbar and Flexin and Joe Whipp, who worked with me all day that day. It was really an amazing Slagger who was there. It was really an amazing journey. And you don't live in that mode forever, right? That would make it less meaningful. So the Eagles fell short this year. They did. And now we go back into the mode of we are on the journey again. The never-ending quest to reach the pinnacle, to reach the mountaintop. And as good as that mountaintop felt, I want to remind you that really what feels good, and this applies to all of your life, is the climb, is the journey, is the process. If you don't enjoy the ins and the outs, then what good is reaching it? If you're unbothered or unenthused by the journey, well, guess what? The highs and the lows won't feel as good and the lows won't feel as bad. You just live here, And I believe life should be lived feeling the different emotions that come with the complexities and the beauty to life at large. So it's been a good year, man. It's been a good year for Eagles fans. It's been a good year for the Eagles. This season obviously didn't go the way, but Jason, to your point, I think we're going to have an awesome offseason, dude. I think there's a lot to talk about. I think the climb and the journey, is now reset in a way, Jason, because last year coming off, like last offseason, hear me out. You were at the mountaintop, right? So you don't look at it like you do now. Now it's like we're short. What do we have to do to get back? When you make it, it's like, okay, they did this. Okay, they hired this guy. Okay, they signed this guy. Oh, they traded this guy. You know what I'm saying? There's not as much of a pursuit. And now we're back in that pursuit. And, while it does suck that the team didn't go the distance and go where we wanted them to go, I, for one, will enjoy the pursuit to get to the next one. Whether Kareem wants to dictate the way I can be a fan or not, I don't really care. That's what I love about sports. It's one of the things I love the most about sports. So enjoy it, all right? Take it for what it is and enjoy it. Being a sports fan is, in many ways, one of the bright spots of life. It's a distraction from some of the things that, maybe bog you down in life or distract you in life or annoy you in life or a realistic approach that the things that just life smacks you in the face, and we all feel this common bond, this sense of community, which is a very important part of life. It's what's given human meaning for thousands of years, literally, to bond and want the same goal, even if we have a different way to get there for our team, so that we collectively can celebrate that together. And that's when you reach the pinnacle. That's when you get there, when you have the parade on Broad Street and there's tears flowing and people are hugging. One of my favorite videos from the parade last year, and I don't even know his name anymore because he was so zooted. He didn't say it to me, but he was an everyday watcher. I know that because he walked his ass right up to me. Let me find the video for you. One of my favorite moments of the parade. Truly one of my favorite moments of the parade, and I got all the footage. Look, here's me, 5:38 in the morning last year on Broad Street. My dad took this picture. There's me, my Eagles Super Bowl jacket right on Broad Street, man. Let's relive some of these real quick. Just amazing. It really is. 5:12 in the morning, I was down there setting up for the parade. 5:12 in the morning, right on Broad Street. There's a look at our coverage. Just a really amazing day, man. There's me. Look, there's me up on the stage, man. Fucking awesome. Parade on Broad Street. Got the JAKIB sign in the back. But one of my favorite videos from that day, which I will show you right now. Let me find it. A lot of videos from that day, by the way. Here it is. This dude, he's rocking the Jordan 3s. He just comes up to me and gives me a big ass fucking hug. I love you, Zander. Fucking got tears in his eyes, crying after watching the beautiful parade, because our team reached the pinnacle. It really makes life fucking beautiful. So enjoy it all right, everybody? Enjoy it all. That's my advice for you today. You don't have to take it, but that's my advice for you today. So, awesome day, man. Awesome day, awesome journey, awesome for this team to reach that. And now we get back on the ship, man. Get back on the ship. Let's go. Let's get back there. How do we get back there? What do we got to do? What trades we got to make? What offense we have to evolve? What coordinator we got to hire? Who we got to sign? Who we got to trade? Who we got to draft? It's a good process. So enjoy it. It's really one of the things that makes life great. So here's Roll. Zay, do you think they aren't saying anything about interviews because they already got their guy? No, that's not how they do business, Roll. John was bitching about it today. They never confirm interviews. So it's weird. Zander Cyrus, It's the Climb. Love that song. It's the climb. Come on, man. Miley Cyrus is killing it. Kareem says Jalen Hurts 4,100 yards and 30 tutties. Oh, no. Oh, no. Cheers to the journey. Yes, sir, man. Our offense might suck, but Roll, I say this. I'm blessed to be fucking alive, brother. I'm blessed that my eyes opened this morning. I'm blessed that my feet worked when I got out of bed and they hit the turf. All right? I'm blessed to be here right now. I'm blessed to be on this camera. I'm blessed to be talking to everybody. Every day is a blessing. There's no doubt. Steven, thank you, brother. Steven, thank you, man. I appreciate you, Steven. One of our best supporters, brother. I do appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys. It was really an awesome year. Awesome year. And let's get back on that journey. Everybody go load up their music provider and play It's the Climb or whatever that song is called by Miley Cyrus. It's a good one. All right. All right. Keith, what's up, Keith? Keith, were you at the parade and you didn't fucking come and see me? I was on Patterson. Well, you're a dickhead. How about that, Keith? I'm just kidding. I love you, Keith. All right, brother. Love all you guys. I'm out of here. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.